Hi everyone, hope you're all well and had a good weekend. I've escaped, I've escaped to the garden out of the way of kids and dogs and any kind of noise, but you might hear birds and the wind blowing now, so I don't know which one's better, but hopefully you can hear me okay. Firstly, I want to say a massive well done for the work that you did last week. So the work on the graphic novels, I was really impressed with the students that handed their work in to me. I've really enjoyed looking at them, and hopefully a few of them are going to be going into the newsletter. So a massive well done. I'm really impressed. Because of that, we're going to carry on with the creative theme this week, mainly because you've done a lot of writing already and a lot of analysis and a lot of creative writing, so it's nice to do something a bit different with this. Hopefully you'll enjoy it. So what we're going to do today is we're going to be looking at chapter 10 because you've not read that yet, so it's only a short chapter, so you're going to be reading that at the start of the lesson. Then we're going to be reflecting on the story so far and thinking about what's happened, and to link to the second point, we're going to be thinking about positives and negatives so far. And then after that, we're going to be thinking about the main themes in Coraline in creative and imaginative ways, and all will be revealed soon. Okay? So you're due now today. I would like you to pause the video in a minute and I'd like you to read chapter 10. And as you're reading or listening to it, I'll put the link for the YouTube clip in Show My Homework. I would like you to write down as many positives or negative events as you can think of or that you find whilst you're reading the story. So for example, something positive might be someone helps Coraline or she moves forward in her quest or her challenge. A negative might be that she falls over or that somebody hinders her, mainly the other mother potentially, and something bad happens. It's up to you if you want to write them down as quotations or you just want to jot the events down. I don't mind. As your challenge task, as your star challenge task, if you can think of any events from earlier in the text as well. Oh no, cheating. If you can think of any events from earlier in the text as well, then add those in. So if you pause the video now, read or listen to chapter 10 and fill in the table. Okay. So hopefully you've read chapter 10 now and you've written some ideas down. I've just really quickly tried to find some ideas for you. A quick tip as well is if you have got the text of Coraline on your computer, you can just copy and paste some of the quotes across rather than having to write them, which is what I've done. So if you want to do that next time or this time to make it quicker, then that's fine. So if we look at the negatives first, I'm not sure why I'm starting with negatives. It might be an indication of my personality, but yeah, it's up to you to decide that. So thinking about negatives first, we've got this idea of the rats attracting her, haven't we, or being attracted towards her, and these shadows, darker shadows surrounding her, so that's clearly a negative event. Moving on from that, we've got these illusions of other creatures being made by the other mother, so starting to change in their appearance and become more frightening. The third one down, we've got the characters or the other characters starting to kind of disintegrate in front of her eyes, haven't we, and fall to pieces. So the rats leaping out from the sleeves is obviously bad. We're talking about the red eyes shining in the dark, so we talked about colour before. Next one, straightforward, Coraline falls over, disaster. And then the last one is kind of the lowest point for Coraline, isn't it? She had failed her parents, she failed herself, failed everything. Okay, so we're talking about that as kind of the lowest point in the story. It can only hopefully get more positive from that point, which is why I've kind of talked about the positive second. In terms of the structure of this chapter, a lot of these negatives happen first, don't they? And then it moves on to the positives as we're kind of, hopefully, Coraline is winning and starting to achieve her goal. So, in the first one, we've got the cat is starting to help her. In the second one, she's found the souls of the children, which is obviously one of the main points of the story. And then she thinks she might know where her parents are. And then the last one, she's starting to get more confident, isn't she? And she's speaking to the cat. So she's saying, everything's going to be fine. I'll take you home. So she's decided that everything is going to kind of be okay. All right. This PowerPoint's got a mind of its own today. It keeps clicking. Okay, so if you check you can pause the video and check your answers against the ones that I've given you. If you have got some ideas from the other parts of the story, that will really help you in the task that we're going to be doing today. Okay, now I'll click. I don't know why it's moving. Right, so your main task today is, I've put a quote from Coraline's other mother here. So you like games, that's what I've been told. So we are going to, you've guessed it, create your own game, okay, based on the story. So your challenge is to design a board game to promote the novel in which Coraline has to escape from the other mother. I'm going to talk it through with you. We're going to look at some examples, come up with lots of different ideas. Again, lots of you keep emailing me and asking, is it okay if I do this? Is it okay if I use pictures from the internet? Is it okay if I change the idea? And the answer is, of course it is. I would much rather you do something that you're excited about or interested in than kind of just do the same thing that you always do. So you're going to design a board game, and I'll talk you through that in a minute. Things I'd like you to include are some of the key events from Coraline. So how each of the 3 marbles are found, how the snow globe is saved, include the other father in some way, the role played by the cat, the role played by the rat, the places that Coraline searches in, so the cupboards, the drawers, the toy box, because she's looking for these lost souls, isn't she? And the role played by the stone with the hole in it. Now, obviously, I don't mind how you include those things. It might be that the places are part of your board game setting, a bit like Cluedo. It might be that the characters are actually the tokens that move around the board. Let's do it again. Okay, it might be that the stone with the hole in it is actually an object that you pick up for some reason. Okay, and again, I'll show you some examples in a minute. I want you to try and include as many details as possible from the story into your game to encourage other people to want to read the book. Okay, so this is almost like a tagline for the game, isn't it? So you might want to help Coraline escape, defeat the other mother, and save the ghosts. Okay, if you want to pause the video and just have a quick think about the main ideas that you're going to include, then obviously do that now. On the next slide, I'm just going to talk you through a few examples, so hopefully that will help you a bit more. Again, remember, you don't have to draw it yourself if you don't want to. You can print out pictures. You can do it all online if you want to. I don't mind, as long as you are including main things from the story. So the success criteria, this is what we're going to be focusing on this week. We're going to be doing task 1 today, and then task 2 and task 3 we're going to be looking at later in the week. So what you're going to be thinking about today is the layout of your board and the type of game you want to play. And we're going to look through some examples in a minute. Okay. Later on in the week, we're going to write some instructions for people playing the game and a set of rules as well. Okay. So the writing in detail is later in the week. So if we just look at some possible ideas, the first picture is quite a straightforward game of, I think it's tic-tac-toe, which is a lot like noughts and crosses, okay? And the kind of only reason that's themed to Coraline is because of those images, isn't it? Now, if you do something like that, I don't mind you kind of copying it, but you are going to need some text from the story, and you're going to need to use some speech maybe just to get some writing into it, because that's a bit of a cop-out just using pictures. Okay, but if you can think of an interesting way of doing that, then have a go. The second bit down here kind of go together. So we've got a typical board game, which I'll talk through in a minute, and I've found some pictures of some of the characters from Coraline. Now you might decide that you want something similar as your counters for your game. All right, and if you do, again, you can draw them, or you can pick pictures from the internet. So I've just kind of put those in to give you help or an idea. Here, you've got chance cards. So sometimes in a game, you might land on a square. So for example, here it says payday. You might land on a square where you pick a card up and read the information from it. And it might be something positive. So it might be that Coraline escapes, I don't know, a room with a certain person in it, or the cat kills the rat, which frees Coraline. So you move forward a few spaces. It might be something negative. So Coraline gets trapped in a room with a rat, or Coraline falls into the well. A bit dramatic, but could happen. So again, you move backwards spaces. Okay. Here we've got top trumps. So you might have played this before. There are different versions of the game. My son's got one at the minute that's like famous landmarks. So information about each landmark, and you compete from there. So what you can do with those is you could have a different card for each character. So you're moving away from the board game with this one, aren't you? You've just got a set of cards. So you have a different card for each character, and then you have a little bit of information about that character, and then you have underneath scores or points. So it might be strength is a certain amount of points. It might be, I'm trying to think what else it might be, like kind of imagination. It might be, what else? Intelligence, yeah. It might be speed, so how fast they can run, or agility. All right, and you can think of some link into Coraline, I'm sure, that you could come up with for that one. And then the last one here is a more traditional game. So it's more like a traditional board game like Snakes and Ladders or something like that. And what you do, this was popular when I was young, is you roll the dice and you move along each one, and you land on a certain square. And here you earn money, I think, which you could do for Coraline, I suppose. Or you could earn the marbles, couldn't you? And then they've got chance cards. Sometimes you're moving back squares because something terrible's happened. All right, so I've added at the end of this slide, or at the end of this presentation, I've added some examples that you could use, templates for this if you want to do that one. Okay. Then I've managed to find a real game for Coraline called Beware of the Other Mother. So somebody has already stolen our idea, or had the idea first, and what they've done is they've created a board game of Coraline. So they've got cards, haven't they, that are kind of chance cards. They've got the rooms or the areas of the house as different points in the game. They've got the counters as characters. If you look down here, they've got the objects. I'm not sure what you do with them. And it doesn't look like you move around a board. It looks like you do something slightly different. If you are interested in looking at this game, then I've included a link to YouTube, and it's only a 2-minute video where someone reviews the game. Okay. Also, hopefully, if I click on this, I might be able to just show you. Yeah, look. So if we have a look here, just some other photos of the game. So you've got the different areas of the house. You've got the characters set up, moving into the different areas within the house. What else have we got? Let's see if it loads. Is it loading? I don't know if you can see it at the bottom anyway, but you've got kind of pictures of the characters on cards and bits of information about them. I don't think it's loading. Oh yeah, look. So place any character in Coraline's current room, then play another card. So obviously they're like chance cards that are moving around. I'm not saying you have to copy this, obviously. But it's just interesting to see a real version, isn't it? Okay. They're just the characters. What else is there? I think that's it. So if we go back to the PowerPoint, it's got a mind of its own. What's it doing? Yeah, we've done that. So if you want to have a look at that in a bit more detail, then obviously feel free. And if you want to copy it or use ideas from it, then that's why I've showed it to you. So you can. I've found a Coraline version of Monopoly. So again, quite a traditional game where you roll the dice and then move around the board. We've got money, Coraline currency, and obviously chance cards where things happen. The other thing I liked about this is that the tokens or the counters that move around the board are different things from the story. Look, so you've got a button, a bat dog, a hairpin, the looking stone. All right, so you might want to include something like that in your game. Okay. So on the next couple of slides, I've included some templates. If you do want to do a traditional board game, then you can feel free to use some of these templates and fill them in and add your own pictures around them. Obviously, please don't just print it out and then write me 3 things on it and send it in, because you've got 3 hours on this altogether this week, so it needs to be a decent piece of work. Okay. Obviously, you can use the internet yourself and search for templates and other ideas. That's fine. I've just found a few really quickly. So this is a really straightforward one, isn't it? And you might want to add information into each section about something that happens within Coraline. A dice, and then this one, a card template if you want to use, if you do want to make some chance cards, or you want to make your own set of top trumps as a separate thing, and not do a board game, then that's fine. And then here we've got some different versions, different layouts that you might want to use. And we've got snakes and ladders. So on the squares at the top of the ladder, you'd need something quite negative, wouldn't you? Like Coraline loses the stone, or the rat steals the stone, go back 20 spaces. Bit extreme, but I'm sticking to it. So go back 20 spaces until you find it, all right? Or here you might have Coraline is trapped in a room with the other father. Miss a go while you wait for him to leave. Okay, so those are the types of things I want you to include in your game. So I know I've talked a lot today and taken up quite a bit of your lesson time, but I've been trying to give you as many ideas as possible rather than just asking you to kind of go away with it. I know it's difficult when you're working at home to keep going sometimes, so that's why I've tried to help you as much as I can. So on this last slide, and it might be worth pausing this as you think about your own work, is a checklist. What I want you to do is make sure that you've decided on the style or type of game that you're doing. So are you doing a traditional board game with snakes and ladders? Are you doing something like top trumps or kind of Pokemon trading cards, which is fine? Are you doing something completely different? All right, it might be that you want to design your own kind of video game, which again is fine as long as you're trying to include those positives from the story and the negatives from the story. Have you thought about your playing pieces that you're going to use? Are you going to use counters? What are they going to look like? You're going to use dice. Make sure you've included information from the story. Use the information I gave you from the Do Now task. I gave you lots of ideas to help you. Have you thought about using information or chance cards, this final one here? This is important, this last bit. Your work can either be a working model, so you make it as a game that can be played with all the pieces that you can move around, or you want to make it like a detailed plan or drawing, so it's just on a sheet of paper with kind of all the information on that piece of paper. Either way is fine. I don't mind what you want to do. Again, please don't just print one of those templates out and write down 4 or 5 ideas in those boxes. Really think about the design of what you're doing and include as much information as possible. That is the skill that I would like you to use from this, that you're thinking about positives from the story, you're thinking about negatives from the story, and you're thinking about how they move through a board game or an idea at your own pace. Okay, I hope you enjoy doing this. I hope you come up with some really interesting ideas, and I really look forward to seeing them. We're going to be carrying on working with, continuing to work on this on Wednesday and Friday this week. So don't panic and think you've got to rush it today, all right? You've got 2 more hours to work on this in detail, okay? I'll see you on Wednesday, hopefully with lots of new ideas, all right? Well done, everyone. See you soon.